I'd like to call the Type A Corpus Christi Business and Job Development Corporation meeting to order at 1:54. Ms. Huerta, please call roll.
Okay. President Lee Trujillo,
Here.
Vice President Robert Tamez, Diana Summers,
Here.
Scott Harris,
Here.
Leo Oliveri,
Here.
John Valls,
Here.
Alan Wilson.
Here.
Okay, we do have a quorum present to conduct the meeting.
Thank you. Is there anyone here who would like to make a public comment? All right. Ms. Huerta, do we have any public comments through
Written?
email?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes approved. Thank you. Financial report. Ms. Holbert.
Good afternoon, Chairman Board, Heather Hurlbert, Director of Finance. Next slide, please. There we go. So we'll be presenting the financial statements for the period ending November 30th, 2021, which is the second period of fiscal year 22. So we'll begin with the Seawall Fund. We began the year with a fund balance of $30.4 million. Now that is an unaudited fund balance. We don't anticipate that we'll have any significant adjustments to it, but it is an unaudited number. Our revenues year to date are $1.3 million. Our expenditures year to date are $15.8, and that is primarily the transfer from the Seawall Fund into the CIP fund for the projects, which we'll discuss in a second. Leaves us with an ending fund balance for November 30th of $15.9 million. Next slide, please. So at the last meeting, there was the request to include a list of all of the active projects, and so we have provided that to the board. They are broken up into two separate sections. The top section indicates all the projects that are active, and so these are ones that have either included funding recently or in the process of being And so right now we have $48.7 million of the budget allocated to active projects, with about $4.3 million of that being expended to date. Included in there is what we call our reserve appropriation. That reserve appropriation does include, I think it's about $4.5 million for the water gardens. We just haven't broken that out yet into a separate line item yet, along with some other projects that will be broken out. Then the second half of the schedule, these are projects that have been completed and are in the process of closeout. So we have about $1.6 million that is budgeted, $1.7 million that was budgeted for these projects. Expenditures year to date are a little over $1 million, leaving us $680,000 that will be either taken back to our reserve or appropriated to another project. So that does leave us we have $50 million in projects, $5.3 million that has been spent, and leaving a balance of $45 million. Next slide, please. Then looking at our Arena Fund, we begin the year with a $14.2 million fund balance, revenues to date of $1.3 million, expenditures to date of $610,000, leaving us an ending fund balance of about $15 million. Next slide, please. Then looking at our Economic Development Fund, so just a reminder, this fund does not receive funding. We moved that 8th cent over to our Type B. And so we began the year with $3.8 million in fund balance. Our revenues to date are $248. Expenditures year to date are $103, leaving us an ending fund balance of $3.7 million. Of that, we do have commitments of $3.4 million, so that leaves an available for commitment balance of $353,000. So then looking at our cash, next slide please, looking at our cash flows in affordable housing, this is within the economic development, affordable housing, we do have commitments of $654,000. Our next agenda item will be that we are going to decommit the $154,000 for the Community Development Corporation of Brownsville, leaving that funding available. Next slide. Looking at our major business incentives, we have $2.4 million that has been committed to the business incentives. Those are expected to be paid out by the end of 23. Next slide, please. Then looking at our small business projects, these are the contracts that we enter into for these different programs. A lot of these contracts are actually calendar year contracts, even though they are budgeted on a fiscal year. So we have carryover from October, November, into October, November, December against those current contracts. So these will close out after December, after the final bills are paid. Next slide, please. And then looking at our sales tax revenue, again, we're reporting 2 months' worth of revenue. Our November collections were slightly below what was projected, and our October collections were significantly over what was budgeted, leaving us $64,000 over what was budgeted for revenue for the year. That does conclude my presentation. I'm available for any comments or questions.
Any comments on the board?
I just have one question.
Bear?
Go back to the slide on the seawall, and there is a design build on Destination Bayfront. This may be a question for Mr. Edmonds, but there's a small balance, like a $30,000 or something balance that I'm seeing.
The $37,000?
Yeah, but that project's done.
That is in, so those projects down there at the bottom of the listing are pending closure. So those are being closed out.
So that'll come back too, is what I'm saying. Yeah,
Yes.
okay. I mean, some of those need to get moved into
Yes.
final.
That's probably just an amount that was encumbered, but was never.
Right. But are we going to clean that up so we have a real balance soon here?
Yes, that's what we're in the process of doing.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Heather, on the reserve appropriation, within that budgeted amount is money for the water garden?
Yes.
Okay. When do we estimate that project's going to start moving forward? Because
I
we've been
believe-
talking about it for quite a while.
Yes, so it had been funded, and then the funding had been pulled back. I believe Mr. Emmons will give an update on that. My understanding is that we have gone out for a competitive procedure
Okay.
on that. Those have come in and are being, the proposals are under review right now.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, good enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
Sure.
Okay, agenda item G3. We're going to discuss a motion deobligating $154,227 on the agreement between Corpus Christi B Business and Job Development Corporation and the Community Development Corporation of Brownsville.
So move.
DBA Come Dream, Come Build for the proposed affordable housing project at Congress Park located at 4017 Capitol Drive. And we'll have a staff presentation.
Well, you already made a motion.
A motion and a second.
Been discussed already.
Yes.
Tamez
Tamez did.
I second.
Thank
All
you.
approved.
Aye.
Aye.
Very good presentation. Thank you. Motion passes.
A sad eye,
Wow.
a sad eye.
And that should have been a rant.
Taking some lessons from Randy there, I see. Very, very good.
Easy money.
I know it's a long agenda. Marina projects update, please.
You know, before we go on, it might be good, Mr. President, if you just stated that, or we stated that the reason this is being deobligated is because there was objections and issues in making the project happen. There were concerns by the neighborhood, I understand. Is that correct? I don't want people to think we're just, well, yeah, but I think it was concerns of the neighborhood.
Peter, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, that's accurate. The city council never approved the contract of this
Right.
project, and in part because of potential disagreement with the current development that's there. With COVID and the economic downturn, the company kind of pulled away from Corpus Christi as well, so they've been kind of a silent
Okay.
partner at this point. So it's those two factors that have put the project to a stop. So we're going to cancel this contract.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Leah. Peter? All right, Marina project update, Mr. Atwood.
All right, good afternoon. Jonathan Atwood, Corpus Christi Marina Manager. We're going to go ahead and start the next slide here. All right, this is a brief overview of 2021. A little information on our revenue. We cleared $2 million this past year. Through the numbers, we had over 350 visiting boaters, transient boaters, which was really great to see after the COVID over the last couple of years. Slip capacity percentage was up to about 70%. Now, this is dependent on the tearing down of LDOC. So we moved some boats around, lost some slips, but we were sitting around 60% at the beginning of last year. So I will say we have come up quite a bit. In fact, there were 2 leases signed today when I was walking out of the office. So it is an upward trend. Some of the events that were hosted in the Marina this year or by the Marina were the Buck Days Air Show, which we had a huge turnout down there. 4th of July fireworks, another huge turnout. Mayor's Cup Regatta, which is the first time that has been done in years. We paired with the Corpus Christi Yacht Club, used the 420 sailboats for that one. And the J22 World Championship Regatta. So that was another big event that involved the Marina down there with people from all around the world. All right, next slide, please. This is a listing of the Marina projects and approved Type A funding. Number one on the list, and obviously our big project, is the replacement of LAVC and D docks. About $15 million on that one. And then we're working on design and engineering for the Cooper's L-Head Boater Facility, the Haulout Facility and Work Yard, which is across from the Yacht Club, and the People's Boardwalk, which was damaged in Hurricane Hannah and demoed, and we're hoping to get that back in good condition here pretty soon. Next slide, please. All right, for the dock replacement project, we are 100% complete on the design. That was submitted to us in early December. The L dock demo was completed in July. Many of y'all saw the crane down there in front of the Yacht Club. We are currently waiting on the Corps permit, U.S. Army Corps permit. This can take 4 to 6 months. They submitted, I believe, in November, end of October, beginning of November, so we're a few months into that. We were hoping to hear back from them before the end of the year, but we have not. As soon as we get the permit, we'll be able to go to bid immediately. Everything else is in place and ready to go. We have been working on clearing A and B docks of tenants and boats on those docks. I'd say we're about 65% clear. We've moved about 65% of the boats. Even some of the boats you see there have already selected other slips in the marina and are ready to move, but they're going to hold out on their slip until the last minute. But we've been trying to get a head start on that. Next slide, please. This is a picture from that L-Dock demo this past June, July, when they finished.
Hey, Jonathan, I've got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Go back to the last slide real quick.
Okay.
The core permit, is it an individual permit, or does the work fall under a nationwide permit?
It's my understanding the work's going to fall under nationwide permit, but I'm not 100% sure what all Urban has submitted for.
Okay,
Urban Engineering is a design firm for us.
okay.
I'm sorry, what's the difference?
It's the amount of public comment that's required, and also the time frame that the Corps of Engineers spends on getting the permit approved.
So we're waiting on the
nation-
shorter one, or we're waiting on the longer process?
The shorter one, he said.
The shorter one is my
Thank you.
understanding. All right, next slide. I just want to throw this in to show that dock demo that happened in June, July. It was really a great deal for the Marina to get the oldest fixed pier in the Marina out of there and make way for the new pier. Next slide, please. All right, so this is an overview of the entire Marina. We're looking at breaking this project into 2 phases. Phase 1, which would have been the demo of L dock, as it's already happened, and demo of A and B docks, and then dredging in that area. So that area would be south of Lawrence Street, north of Cooper's. Okay. Once the dredging is done, we're going to replace those 3 docks, finish that side, and then move over and demo docks C and D and dredge that area. As soon as we get done with docks L, A, and B, that will really open up a lot of slips for us to move tenants around and help business moving forward. So we do have a small waiting list of people trying to get into the Marina. So we're really excited about getting that phase 1 done. Next slide, please. This is the 100% design for Dock L. We've kept much of the same format due to the permit that we applied for. We had to keep it in similar width and length. And then we've added this little pod area just south of it between the street and the existing dock that was there. The pod area is going to be a fixed dock for boat lifts with a composite decking, and then it will have a ramp that drops down to that concrete floating structure that we're planning to put in. Next slide, please. This is the 100% design for docks A and B. We have changed the format of A dock to make it side tile along the southern side and then have 40-foot slips on the north side. That side is chosen most often because many of the boats pull straight into the prevailing wind, that southeast wind. The side tie will allow us to have a mix of different size boats, catamarans, and boats that will be able to lay alongside, and the prevailing wind will push them into that. So that will really change things up for us down there, as well as this will match more of what you see on People's T-head, because E-dock is a very similar format. B-dock will say very similar to what it is right now, some changes in slip size and obviously the infrastructure. Next slide, please. And then moving over to C and D docks. The biggest changes for these docks were just the alignment to the landmass as well as the slip sizing. Urban put us in contact, and we worked with ATM, a company that does consulting for marinas, and they looked at this area, looked at the demographic, the number of boats that are being bought and sold in Texas and throughout the Gulf Coast, and that was how we came up with the sizing, the slip sizing for all these replacements. Next slide, please. All right, we're going to move on to the two facilities and the design for them, Cooper's L-Head Boaters Facility and the Haulout Facility. We're looking at selecting an engineering firm for design sometime within this next month or February with the RFQ process. Some changes will be pending on a Marina Master Plan. We're hoping to secure a Marina Master Plan or a firm to start a Marina Master Plan sometime in the near future. Obviously, the decisions made with that plan will weigh heavily on our designs for these two buildings and placement. Some of the upgrades will include green spaces and landscaping in Cooper's L-Head. That is a question that's awfully asked often of me. Large meeting rooms, more public restroom facilities, more restroom shower facilities for tenants, office space for marina staff, and the Haulout Yard contractors. We are currently in the boaters facility in the middle of Lawrence. And we really do not, that is a boaters facility. It's really not a marina office, but it's been utilized in that form for several years now. And storage space for marina equipment, as well as hoping to add retail space or some kind of space up on the seawall to provide better access to the seawall and another option for revenue for the marina. Next slide, please. This first picture you see is the existing Cooper's Boaters facility. If you drive down to the L-Head, you'll notice that. This is also the oldest facility in the marina, and it is showing its age. The tenant facility inside has one men's, one women's restroom and shower, where our new facilities have 4, and many marinas are offering even more than that currently. So we want to upgrade that. Those docks were also put in 2015, and there's a large portion of our marina. Docks R, S, T, and U, as well as we have the new Morph dock that was completed early this last year, and the public boat ramp. The L-Head is also the center or the main location for all these world-class regattas that come in. So this facility gets heavy use. Next slide, please. This is a concept drawing of the new boaters facility and the green spaces we would like to have out there. The turquoise building is Jane's Bait Shop that is currently there. And then this would go right over the top of where you see the old facility. The small building with the blue roof behind Jane's Bait Shop is the current pump house facility for that landmass. So we'd like to upgrade that whole area there and make it more uniform
John?
with the blue roof.
Mr. President. Yeah, thank you. Pump house, pump room, is that the sanitary sewer lift station?
Correct.
Okay. I was going to make a suggestion. I had the pleasure or displeasure of looking at those probably 15, 20 years ago now. And all 3 of those lift stations on the at the marina need some serious upgrades. So
Yes, sir.
including it in these projects would be good.
Okay, yes, sir. And that's the plan is to look at that as well, since it's all within the same vicinity. All right, next slide, please.
I have a quick question. Do we have any kind of washers and dryers in this facility?
Yes, that
Okay.
facility has 2
I thought
washers,
I-
2 dryers. Yes, and they're kind of in the same little common area when you first walk in. A more individual washroom would be ideal for the new facility. This is another picture of the concept, just from a different angle. Really shows the parking, the change in the parking, the change in the building, and the orientation to the landmass, which would be very nice out there. Next slide, please. This is the existing haul-out facility on Cooper. So as you enter Cooper's from the seawall, it's there on your right across from the yacht club. and it was built in the 50s. It is showing its age. We're having serious rust problems with the structure of that large metal building, and the building closest to the street is a cinder block building. Many times when it rains, we have water run straight off the street and straight through the floor in that building and out into the Haulout Yard. So this building needs serious upgrades. We do have a tenant in there, a contractor in the yard that has their office space in there. And the last time it rained, she was literally walking around in water. So it's something that needs to be done. Next slide, please. Here's another concept drawing, possibility for a building there to replace the haul-out facility. This would add a neat deck area reaching out onto the seawall, which would help us with putting a small retail space up there and bring people close to the marina, off the seawall, giving them a place to hang out. This would also be office building or office space for the marina staff, as well as storage for equipment. Our travel lift that we used to lift up the boats and haul them out, and much upgraded building and view down there as well. Next slide, please. This shows the backside where the Haulout Yard is. This whole area needs to be addressed. The concrete has multiple cracks in it. We have some issues with the containment system for water runoff, stormwater runoff. Many things that have been considered were the fencing along the street there to kind of separate the work yard from the public, from the yacht club, and provide a little better aesthetic when you drive down onto the landmast. Next slide, please. Next on the list is the People's Boardwalk. We have a meeting set up at the end of this month to discuss the selection of an engineering firm for the design of the boardwalk and upgrades to the boardwalk. Some changes will also be possibly pending due to the Marina Master Plan, but we're hoping to push this project forward and get the boardwalk back up and running, because I know it's a hot topic for the public and for the marina tenants and anybody that drives down to look at the marina. It's tough whenever I walk a new tenant or someone who's interested in keeping their boat in the marina, and we have to drive past the boardwalk on our way to the nice slips, and they often ask about it. So upgrades will include use of composite materials, which should last a lot longer, better lighting along the walkway, day slips for visiting boats, something that's often asked, so people can pull in, visit the restaurants, come visit downtown, and commercial slips for things like boat charters or a water taxi. And I know we have had some interest in both of those in the marina. Next slide, please. And that is all I have. That concludes my presentation. Any questions?
Got one.
Go ahead, Robert. I'll defer to Robert.
Did I miss a fuel facility station?
So a fuel facility station is not on the Type A project list, but it is something we are working on.
Well, we did mention that to Peter.
Yes, sir.
Last November sometime.
Right, yeah, and Jonathan's been working on it. I don't know if you want to elaborate a little bit more, Jonathan, on...
Yes, sir. We have a gentleman that's interested in bringing a fuel station into the marina along with a separate business, and they would work together and be advantageous to him as well as the marina. That would be the best way to go about it. If we were to pay for the fuel station ourselves, it would be many, many years before we recouped our costs, as well as the maintenance and operation of the station. If we had a private party come in and do it, they would take all those costs as well as the operation of it, help support their business as well as the marina tenants. And we're in talks with him right now about that.
I would like to see it done at the time that the marina's all completed.
Yes, sir. That would be the plan.
That would be nice.
Many of these projects are moving forward together, and we're really hoping everything will come together at the same time.
Thank you.
Mr. Valls?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you go back to the very first slide, or maybe it's the second one, but go back to the very beginning. Right there. Sorry. A little more. Right there. What is that's the T-head on the far right? It looks like there's some kind of a little, like a skating area or something right in the center. You know, when I was a kid, we used to go out there and skate, and there would be bands playing, and there was a lot of activity out there. You know, now there's not a whole lot going on down there. I was in Kemah just over the holidays, and man, that place is really hopping. And then we went over to Galveston for a few days, and, there's just a lot to do on those seawalls and along the boardwalk there and the seawall. And, I hate to say it, and everybody knows it, there's just nothing to do down there. Who's going to be involved in that master plan? That almost sounds like it should be a community-wide project. These are the signature properties of our community, and they're just lacking activities for the public.
Yes.
I mean, I hate to say that, but that's just the truth. So who's going to be involved in that master plan, Peter?
Right, so Mayor Guajardo has taken this on as a major initiative of hers, and we've been working with her to vet a firm, or we've vetted several firms that we're looking at to help us design or develop a master plan.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to bring an outside expert in the area of master planning, marinas in particular. And we've vetted 2 so far. We're going to look at a third one. Once we do secure that consultant, they'll help us, the mayor and council, Jonathan, his team, and the community. We've talked about that when we've interviewed these other 2 firms. There's really a community input, first primarily from the stakeholders at the marina, so the tenants and the ones that use it a lot. They'll be a major stakeholder. But the community at large is something we want to include in this master planning effort.
Okay, I mean, I hope so, because,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that is just golden property, and, we could put out, invitations to bid, a public-private partnership where we provide the land and a developer comes in and provides the amenities. I know that may have been tried in the past and it may not have gotten anywhere, but there's just so many opportunities out there. And when I was in Kemah, it's not a big area. When you go into the main archway there, it's not a big area, but it's kind of condensed, but there's a ton of restaurants there. There's a ton of activities. I mean, carnival rides galore. It was packed. And, this was over the holidays. And even with, the COVID going on, it was packed. I just hate for us to miss an opportunity where we're putting a ton of money, really for the tenants. We're putting 0 in for the public. This is all going in for the tenants, but I hate to miss an opportunity for the public to have, and the tourists, to have amenities down there. There's just so much to do in those other communities. I wish we had the same opportunities here, but we can have that. So when we master plan it, I think, the communities involved and all the input that they'll give you, I think you're going to find that they're going to want amenities. And that stretches our dollars further. We put $15 million into it, and I know Mr. Tamez has been talking forever about the breakwater, about extending that. That's just going to bring in more sales tax, and it's going to grow our fund and then reinvest back into it. I mean, y'all know where I'm going with this, so I really look forward to that master plan. And what's your timeline on that, Peter?
Probably the next 30 to 60 days, we'll have a consultant selected.
Okay.
And the goal is to get it done this year. It's funded in this year's budget and this general fund budget.
Okay.
The master plan. We did put additional dollars anticipating community engagement. So things, it's a small thing, but things like snacks or food or water to get a good meeting going with the communities. Those dollars are included in the budget, in that general fund budget. So it's for consultant services plus community engagement activities and funds.
One thing that I would request is that our board president serve on that committee. That way, whatever feedback is coming from those town hall meetings or outreach, whatever they are,
Right.
he can bring back to the board.
Yeah, we'll invite everybody, but certainly we could have.
Well, but we don't all, I don't want to be on the committee, but I think.
President or board representative, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think we should have or the dam, or his designee, whoever's going to miss the next meeting. Okay.
Right.
I mean, I think we should have a representative on that committee, or that task force, whatever you want to call it. But man, guys, when you get to go outside of town and see what other people are doing, it just, you come back and you think, Jesus, why are we missing it? And without those kinds of things, we're going to lose people. I have a lot of friends personally who moved out of the city. But while we're in the process of investing significant dollars. This is the time, Jonathan, to try and capture amenities, for the tourist and for the community, to really make that, a jewel along the bay. Anyway, that's my soapbox, but
Okay, we agree.
Thank you,
That's why we
John.
budgeted
Okay.
the money.
Mr. Wilson,
thank
comment?
you.
A bit of trivia before I ask my question. When I was young, that space that you were talking about, in warm weather, every Saturday night we had hootenanny. And country star Don Williams got his start with a group, the Pozo Seco Singers. Remember them? My family went out with lawn chairs many Saturdays and nights to listen to the music. So there is an opportunity there for sure. The first slide I think you had, revenues for this year, for
Yes, sir.
2021, was a little over $2 million, right?
Yes, sir.
The banker in me just wants to know, how does that compare to the year before, and what do you expect this year?
Year before was just a little bit less, if I remember correctly. We did see a trend up, and I think we're going to see another one this next year. Some of that is the changes with COVID. Some of that is leadership change in the marina, staff involvement, things like that. So I think we'll see it.
And then on completion of all the reconstruction of the docks and stuff, would you expect a pretty good bump in revenue?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Miz?
Mr. Wilson, remember back in the early 60s, we had some boys clubs, the Royal, the Percutines, and boys clubs. And along with the Haiferneses, and we used to have suck hops Saturday nights there.
Thank you, Mr. Tamiz. So, this is a showpiece, no doubt, Mr. Atwood, and we're excited about the mayor's mission to really bring tourists there, because, it is those of us who are a little elderly do remember finally going down to the T-heads. It was an every other weekend trip, and it could be as simple as skating the circular areas. But it's so important that we do capture these tourists to go down there, and then there's something for them to do. We have several businesses who invested their resources in restaurants down there, and it's incumbent on us now that we're going to have such a showpiece to make sure that we do capture movement towards that area. It will increase our revenue via sales tax. Obviously, we're going to increase our rents, and that's going to help facilitate the maintenance required. On all the different T-heads, the L-head has the public restrooms. The T-heads, are there none? Is just basically the private businesses?
No, they all have public restrooms
They
as
all
well.
do.
The two buildings you see on Peoples and Lawrence with the blue roofs in the center have public restrooms in them as well. But they were built in 2004. The other facility, I honestly haven't even found a date. It's been there a long time.
Okay. And they're serviceable. And going to Mr. Temez's comment, I mean, it's real important that we get a fuel station. I've had people come to me and say, hey, it's very exciting what's going on in the marina, but you can't gas up. So I know it's expensive, but there's got to be a solution to that. And our board, us, we're looking to you to find that solution, whatever it takes. Coming back or going before city council or continuing to ask other partners to come in and invest in our city. And unless we bring folks to that area, then the break even is harder. So we got to make sure that we continue to stay on top of that fuel station, because it is a common question that I get from people that are in the city.
Yes, sir.
But we're very excited about this marina. It's fantastic. I can't wait for this time next year to get your report.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Valls?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I mean, really, the model is like at the airport. I mean, the fuel scenario they have there, it's privatized.
Yeah, but it's much more difficult to do on a marina.
Yeah.
It's very hard to do. It's an EPA issue out in that water. You got a problem with the tank.
Yeah, there's a couple of issues.
Right,
One,
but it's
the amount of
doable.
fuel sales. It is something we need, the amount of fuel sales. We are
Right.
predominantly a sailing bay. We have a lot of sailboats, and so they don't fuel up as much as the power boats. But we have started to see more power boats come in. We have started to see people from Austin, San Antonio, Central Texas buying these big power boats and putting them in the marina, and then looking to use them. I think our connection to Padre Island, Port Aransas, Ingleside, they're starting to become more people moving between those places, which requires fuel as well. The airport has flights that leave every day with planes that have to take fuel every day. And they also are set back from the saltwater environment. The last fuel station pretty much fell apart with the salt air, some of the storms we had,
Right.
things like that. So
Yeah,
it takes
well,
someone
I'm
who,
talking for the general aviation. I mean, it's the
correct.
same setup. Is the, Heather can probably answer, is the, because Peter stepped out, is the Marina an enterprise fund?
Yes.
It is? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Comments?
Yeah.
I do.
We're forgetting a safety hazard by not
have
having
it.
a facility station there. I know of people that carry containers of fuel there, and that's a hazard. It's a good thing we haven't had something happen, but
Yes, sir. I agree.
we have to consider that. Thank you.
Ms. Olivari?
Make one comment that about, I think everything John and y'all were talking about is great, but I think we underestimate the need for wayfinding in this community, and it's not just signage, but here I am, I'm a tourist, there should be some place I can swipe and say, oh, it's 3 miles if you walk this way, or this is what's down in the, I don't think we're using technology as expansively as the people who are coming expect. So I think we don't tell people what we have, even when we have it. So
Yeah, we, so also in this budget, in the city's budget, we budgeted dollars for wayfinding signage,
Great.
a comprehensive strategy for the entire city, not just downtown.
so I can swipe
yeah.
my code, and if I want to know how far it is to walk. from-
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're in the process of securing a consultant as
Great.
well, a national or hopefully a Texas-based consultant. And we've begun that process with interviews, and we have to do a little bit more
Super.
work, so.
Fabulous.
It's a pretty, it's a very comprehensive strategy, because you can imagine it's not just downtown to the marina, it's the island, it's all of the city. We want to have a consistent wayfinding brand and strategy.
Now, you need to know that there's something down there to look at.
Yeah,
Even if it's
exactly.
minor. I mean, but you
Right.
get to the Salina, and it's like, okay, why should I turn here and go
Yeah,
further
exactly.
down? The other thing is, I know these are conceptual drawings, and I'm looking at Mr. Edmonds, but I'm quite concerned about the elevation in some of these buildings, so
That's something I have to leave it to the engineers.
I know,
That's a question
I
that
know, but that,
hear all the time.
we're below seawall level there, and I just want to
And that's a big point with, in light of your comment about it flooding in there now. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming that that's being taken care of. We'll hear maybe more from Jeff later.
ramps or
But-
getting it up higher. I mean, I know it's conceptual, but those look too low to me for that environment. I mean, they'll be flooded again.
Do you anticipate all the projects to be complete by 2022, end of the year?
No, not all the projects. No, sir. I mean, we'll start the design phase for the 2 buildings. We're hoping to have phase 1 of the dock project done, and then hopefully moving in phase 2 in the next year. And then People's Boardwalk, we would love to have that done by the end of this year. We will see what happens. We have obviously issues with material and COVID and everything else.
Labor.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Atwood.
thank you all very
Appreciate
much. Have a good afternoon.
Moving on to item 5, briefing on the city's down payment and closing cost assistance program.
Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Buxton with Neighborhood Services. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the city's down payment assistance and closing costs program is funded through the U.S. Department of Housing Development, also known as HUD. This year, we had $621,000 available, and we anticipate serving between 17 and 20 home buyers with those funds. We changed the regulations or the limits this year up to $25,000 for down payment assistance and up to $10,000 for closing costs. To use the program, households must be at or below 80% of the area median, and for a family of 4, that's $55,450. Purchase price can't exceed $173,000 for an existing home and $238,000 for a newly constructed home. And we provide assistance as a 0% loan, and the term varies from 5 to 10 years based on the amount of assistance provided. Next slide, please. The city's down payment assistance
One
program.
second, Ms. Buxton, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Ms. Olivari, you had a question?
No, I'm sorry. It's okay.
Mr. Valls?
Yes, thank you. Can you go back one slide, please?
Sure.
How many folks took advantage of this program last year?
I don't have that number in front of me.
It's none. We changed it. Yeah, we only increased it in September.
I would have to get that for you. It was different funding last year and with different funding limits. I don't have it in front of me.
Hey, give me a ballpark. Who would know this? I mean, you're guessing between 17 and 20 are going to take advantage of it this year. You have to base that on something.
That's based on dollar amount. Available funds.
Well, well, if you were going to do that, then it would be more. It would be more than 20, because unless it's 35,000 total,
35,000.
you're dividing in there.
Yeah. Or somewhat like that.
What I'm going to get at is, Diane probably knows this better than any of us. I mean, how many folks are taking advantage of this program? I don't think that many took advantage of it last year, if I remember correctly.
I think the
There
prices
are
was
two
the
things.
issue, and so when we increase the amount,
Yeah.
these amounts are much more attainable to meet the guidelines of this program than it was in the prior years.
Okay.
And two things happened. We increased the dollar amount. Also, we advertised the program.
Yes.
Okay.
Those two things led to a significant increase in applications. Applications previous to this program came in randomly, not necessarily did we ever have a waiting list. This year, we increased the limits. We did a press release. I think the press release went out on the 7th. We had to close it on the 11th. Staff couldn't keep up. We received 647 applications before we could close the program.
Okay, that's good.
So those two things happened, but I don't have the number you want off the top of my head.
That's okay. Because if you got that many applications, then you're going to gobble up that money. And then the other question is, do we need to put more money in it? You know? So, because I don't think we did a good job of marketing it previously, and obviously now that there's more money in there and you guys are promoting it, it's going to be a more utilized program. Because I want to make sure that this program is used.
And with the city home funds, we're going to evaluate who can use it, who's credit worthy, how many of the applications, how long it takes us to get through this funding, finding people who can use it. It takes a little bit to wade through that 647. We're not recommending that we use any of the Type A funds for the down payment assistance at this time. We're evaluating other needs and other applications for different types of programs that could come through for the Type A funding. It is possible that we will be able to use additional home funds as we get more money from HUD, but again, we're evaluating all of the housing needs to find the best recommendation that we can bring to you.
Okay, so you're saying that you're estimating between 17 and 20 home buyers will take advantage of the program, but you got over 600 applications.
Yes.
Doesn't mean they qualify.
And right off the top, many of those don't, they're not going to income qualify, they're not going to be credit worthy, or the ones that are credit worthy, maybe they're credit worthy for $60,000 or $80,000. You can give them $25,000 for down payment assistance, that's still not going to get them into a house that doesn't need a lot of rehabilitation in it. So there's a sweet spot. Right now, I think we've processed or are working through 79 different, can you go ahead 2 slides, please? Thank you. So out of the 79 applications that we're working that are current, 27 of them are working with lenders. 29 had credit issues, and 23% or 23 of them were over the 80% limit. A lot of the applications that we did receive, there was a Facebook post on one of the news sites, and everybody just shared it with somebody else, and applications just poured in without regard to, do I meet the income qualifications? It was, let me see if I do. So far, about a third of them haven't been below 80% of the area median income. Those 27 that are working with lenders, half of those are going to fall out for not being able to carry enough debt service, not being able to find a home, changing their mind, whatever that is. I don't even think that 27 will be the 17 to 20 that we assist. But you can see here, the 79, how they've broken out into the different categories.
So really, you're looking at 27 applicants out of 647.
No, we've only started processing the 79.
They're going
We're not going to process 647 applications. We process them in the order in which they receive, and we have them down to the minute.
Okay.
We took first, whatever combination these are. Oh, this one's over income. We go to the next one. They have credit issues. We go to the next one. They're working with the lender, and you keep whittling it down. Right now, we're working with 27. Depending on how many of those fall out, we'll go back to the pool of 647 and we'll pull another one. But we don't process somebody until we get to them.
So really,
Yeah, so
35.
really, you need to apply pretty quickly, because if you're at the very end of this application pool, you're probably not going to get your application reviewed.
Correct.
Okay.
Ms. Summers?
Well, yeah, so I was just gonna say, like, 35% of the applications that they looked at look like they're gonna work for this program, is what you're saying.
So far.
So far.
Some will continue to fall out.
But they've disqualified some people based on
Yeah.
income limits and things. I know I've heard lenders talk about this program.
Yeah.
So I know that it's gained a lot of traction as well. And I need to,
How are we promoting this program?
I saw it.
We're not anymore.
No?
You still have 568 applications you haven't looked at
We
yet.
haven't even looked at,
So once you get through this process, if there's any funds left, then you'll start the process again with the next
Yeah,
group
yes.
of 50 or 60, whatever number you deem necessary.
yes.
I saw it in your news announcements.
I'm
and
sorry, what?
I got an email about it in your news
the Facebook
announcements,
post.
media announcements, and I saw it in one of the media. I can't remember which one. So it was getting out there.
Yep.
I want to applaud the effort,
But
because
yeah.
before this, we just had money available not being utilized. So
Correct.
at least we're going to put some people in homes.
Yep.
So
thank you
basically,
for
we
that.
won't have
Ms. Summers?
a thorough amount in about 6 months.
Say that again, please.
In about 6 months, you'll give us an upgrade, up-to-date as to how you're doing on your program? So how many have applied and how many have
Purchased?
succeeded?
Yeah, we can provide that update. Yeah.
with the infill housing program, can a transaction have the infill housing incentive on one side and this incentive on the other for the
Yes.
buyer? Okay.
She's doing all right.
Can we go to the previous slide, please? There was a question about closing costs, and this program does not charge any closing costs, but the program covers many closing costs charged by lenders and title companies.
Okay, good.
Next slide. The one thing on the slide we didn't talk about is there are 2 closings likely to happen in January. There are applications far enough with their lenders. Next slide, please. The third question asked was regarding income determinations. So the city's program is required to follow HUD income eligibility determinations. This is both what is the income limit and how we measure people's income. And the income limits are set by HUD and they're adjusted annually. And we're required to look at pay stubs, bank statements, tax return, benefit statements, and other documents. And the program is required to project income over the next 12 months. Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions?
I have one more.
Mr. Vols?
Do y'all, so how does somebody apply for this? Do they just go online, print out an application, fill it out, send it in?
The department has multiple programs, and we have an online intake form.
Okay.
We also will mail them out.
Okay.
But when you use the intake form, you go to our website and you can pick among a couple of different programs. The homebuyer program was one of them. It is not anymore.
Do we have enrollment counselors, somebody to help these folks?
We do. We have 2 folks on
Okay.
staff that what they do is they process applications and they work with home buyers and folks in our repair program. They walk them through the application. They tell them what documentation they need. They tell them when they need to work with a lender, those sorts of things.
I can't imagine that of the 647 applicants, that they all went through those 2 counselors.
What happened was anybody that had an email address, we worked with IT, and IT kicked them out a base message. We've got your application, maybe we'll get to it, but the application period is closed. We're processing them in order. There was another 200 of them that I want to say got phone calls telling them we're processing applications in order. But it depended on which route you got, depending on whether or not there was an email associated with your application intake form.
Well, the more hand-holding that the city can do, then you're going to get more qualified applicants. I serve on the Nueces County Hospital District, and our mission is to provide health care for indigent. So in order to access that indigent health care, you have to sign up for the program. It's called Nueces Aid. So we have a lot of people that were coming to us, and they were applying, and then they wouldn't come back because they lacked this, or that. And so we expanded our enrollment counselors to really handhold them and walk them through the process, so that they basically become qualified and accepted into the program, pretty quickly. I don't know, maybe there's a way to fine tune the application process where they have to go through somebody. Because anybody can apply, but most people don't read everything, and they're not going to include this or that or whatever. And then, you've got to go through that many. I mean, that's wasting time and energy. So if you could fine tune the process somehow to get a more qualified applicant, then that 647 is not going to be that number.
Yep, you're correct.
Okay.
Kind of a yes or no flow chart. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, no, you don't qualify, sorry.
And that's what we had to do. We created a flow chart.
Thought the press release was fairly clear that you had to work with a lender, which meant you had to be credit worthy, that we were doing down payment assistance. I believe there are a large percentage of 647 people who just saw that the down payments was available,
Right.
got their application in without actually reading what the program was about. And because there are some that we're able to just say no to because they didn't understand that we're not granting the full purchase price of the home. We're only doing a portion of the down payment. When the first question we asked is, have you worked with a lender, or do you know what your credit report says? And people are like, no, I didn't know that was going to be a thing, So
They're not reading the press release.
No, they did not.
Somebody told them,
they
and
just
oh,
signed
really?
it.
Get on the website.
And that's
print
why
out
it
a
went
form.
so fast.
Question, Ms. Summers?
Okay,
Well,
thank
I
you.
do think that lender portion is a good portion to include, because that really shows you who's serious in the market for that down payment assistance program, because the last thing we want is someone to be approved and has not even started that process with the lender side.
And we do not approve them until we get what's called a lender packet, which is that they have a house, what they can borrow, even the closing cost statement, the whole thing.
Is there any plan to tie because that infill housing program will help improve the amount of inventory that meets that 238 price point. Is there any plan to kind of coordinate and have some communication between what's becoming available through that process with this program?
When our people are accepted to either the infill housing or the fee waiver program, that's going to be on our website. And one of the questions on the application is, who can people contact if they want to purchase their home? We're going to make sure that people in the down payment assistance program know about those homes.
Okay.
So when they're out shopping, they know, oh, I already know that these are supposed to be in my range. Now, whether or not their personal debt capacity, even with the down payment assistance, that's an individual thing, but those homes will be, we cannot tell them to buy a certain home.
Right, but
But we
they'll
want to
have-
make sure that they know that those homes are available.
Perfect. Thank
And
you.
then the status of those homes is going to be on our website too. Under construction, sold, pre-sold, those things.
So that brings up a good point. If one of those infill housing homes is under construction, could a buyer with this down payment assistance program put a contract on that house, even if it's 6 months from being delivered?
We have to
Will we hold
recert,
someone
according to
that long?
HUD's rules and regulations, we have to recertify income every 6 months, or recertify income every 6 months. As long as we can do that and they continue to be income eligible 6 months from the original certification date, then yes.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Buxton.
Thank you.
Moving on, update on American Bank Center capital improvements.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Board. I'm Paul Turner. I'm the Interim General Manager for the American Bank Center. I'm very glad to be here today to talk to you, give you some updates and show you some pictures of the capital projects that have been worked on at the American Bank Center arena. If you can go to the next slide. So you'll see here, winding back some of the projects that were completed recently using the Type A funds. We had a rather significant investment made in the center hung video board. If you can go to the next slide. We took some recent photos here. You see this is a post-game skate after the Ice Rays game, and the video board is pictured there. Go to the next slide, please. And you'll see there, that was our Coastal Christmas event. I don't know if any of you were able to join us out there for the skating on the ice, but again, you can see the big Christmas tree that we had in the center of the ice, and then the video board above it as well. We go to the next slide. So also part of the other recent capital projects that have been completed was some significant repainting of the arena, concourse, and other areas throughout the building. This changed what was a rather kind of dated and very bright color scheme inside the building to something that's a little bit more clean and more modern and more pleasing in our environment. So these investments were also very significant, even though they seem to be just relatively, fairly easy cosmetic changes. There's still really good investments in keeping the venue modernized and looking good. Next slide, please. We also completed some security enhancements, which included keyless entries throughout the building, which is a great investment because it's leveraging, which is pretty common technology now, getting us out of the business of having to issue hard keys throughout the building, and helps us make sure that we're using technology to keep the building safe and safeguard all of the assets inside. Next slide. We also modernized a lot of our fixtures and went to the touchless water faucets, which also not only makes sure that we're consuming less water, but also makes it a much more sanitary environment by reducing all of those touch points in the different facilities throughout the building. Next slide. Another significant project that was underway, we started our fourth and final phase of what was our locker room renovations and some additional storage space that was built for the arena here. You can see the project started, and then we are actually on completion. January 17th isn't the right date. We're actually getting those a few days early, coming up around the 13th. So just in a couple of days, we'll get those just in time for the basketball doubleheader games that we'll have. So we'll have all of our new locker rooms ready to go. And you can go to the next slide. You see again some of the significant construction that was underway. We'll go to the next slide.
Just real quick, Mr. Turner, on the locker room renovations and all the renovations, what's been the input so far of TAMU CC or anyone who started to look at these improvements?
Oh, absolutely. They were involved and consulted in the whole design phase and making sure that we were planning to and able to deliver to them the facilities that they needed. So they've all been very pleased. They're very eager to get into them. I don't know if you're familiar with the previous ones were very small. It was very difficult for them to really feel comfortable in the building, and these upgrades, these enhancements, these additional spaces allow them the opportunity to really have good support spaces for their events. So they were very involved, and I think they're going to be very, very pleased in what they see. You can go to the next slide. Again, these are some of the completed locker room pictures here. Again, facilities, the restroom and the shower facilities, again, are very, very important. We'll go to the next slide. Now, another project that is underway right now is the City Terrace project. There are actually three elements to this. This is the City Terrace. What you're seeing in the picture there is our existing condition, which is this is just behind the suites on the club level there. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see that we've actually removed a portion of the wall there. Normally there was a half wall that was part of the little parapet wall there that included the terrace. We've removed all of that, and it's going to be fully enclosed. You can go to the next slide. You'll see the red boundary there indicates the completed wall will be up there. It'll have glazing and all of that to match the design of the building. But what that will do is that will expand that concourse space. We'll remove the existing wall, so it'll all be open concourse space directly behind the club seat areas and the suites, which will allow us for a really nice space. There'll be a permanent bar that will be installed in there. There'll be another lounge space. Will be a space that will be used to enhance the amenities for events, and can also be rentable space for private events as well when there isn't something going on in the arena. Next slide, please. Another part of this project, another element to the project is called the Club Lounge, and this is just to give you kind of an idea of where it is. It overlooks in one of the corners of the arena. Next slide. And you can see that red boundary is the zone that we're talking about. And then the next slide, please. And you'll see the construction that's underway. So from these pictures, it's kind of hard to see, but you're standing with your back to the seating bowl and looking in. You can see some of the structure that's being built where there'll be a bar and there'll be additional lounge space. And this is also connected to a bank of, I believe it's 25 seats. So we'll be able to market this as a very special upscale kind of experience for those folks that have those 25 seats and have that nice amenity there. It can be a private space for other events, but also something that we can market as part of events. So it helps modernize and add to the amenities and keeps the arena very, very current. Let's go to the next slide. Another project that we're doing as part of this, the third phase, is the combination of Suite 1 and 2. This isn't really all that involved, but we had to basically strip out the entire volume of there, and then we're going to be reframing it and rebuilding it to match the other suites. And that allows us to combine two smaller spaces into one much more functional and much more usable larger suite. Go to the next slide. I think that's actually it. So we've got a lot of things that are underway. We're also looking ahead to see, once these projects wrap up, what's next, what are the next things that we want to propose. When you look at a building like the arena and the opportunities that it presents, making sure that that building stays current with technology and it meets the very best in energy efficiencies. So we're going to probably be coming back with more proposals that help touch on those things. These have been great improvements to help us with back of house spaces to help accommodate the teams and the people that use the building. We've also got with the Terrace project a great opportunity to enhance the amenities for the guests and opportunities to increase revenues. And so I think the next wave of things that you'll see, we'll be looking at the kind of technology investments that help make sure that that building stays current and stays as efficient and functional as possible. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Perfect, Mr. Turner. I mean, about a year ago, Mr. Temez and Mr. Valls and myself took a tour of the center and realized how bad the situation was. As VIP was not a VIP, locker rooms were horrible. The outside space, to me, I call the smoking zone, has always been wasted.
Right.
So it's good to see that it's going to be a fantastic arena, which is paid for by the citizens of Corpus Christi. So we're excited about this. I look forward to maybe setting up some tours.
Absolutely.
We'll go 3x2 to facilitate and take a look at it. But very exciting. I can't wait till all the projects are complete. Mr. Valls, you had a question?
Yeah. Mr. Turner, so you're interim.
I am interim.
What's the timeline for a full-time?
Well, we are, they're in the search right now. ASM Global is in search for a permanent replacement. I was on a 90-day contract that is ending at the end of this month, and I have another employment obligation I have to get to. So I wanted to extend my time here, but unfortunately I'm not able to. I don't believe we'll have a replacement in 3 weeks, so they do have somebody else lined up who will be here this week to work with me to start as a second interim person. But I know they're working really hard to get a permanent person in place.
Okay. Yeah, because that spot's been vacant for quite a while now.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So what's the name of the facility? I mean, the company that is managing the
ASM Global.
SM? What happened?
ASM Global, yeah.
Did that replace SMT?
SMG merged with another company, AEG, and they became ASM Global. So, sorry, a lot of different letters scrambling around there, but yeah, that merger took place, I think, about 2 years ago.
Basically the same company.
It's basically the same company, correct. But they would like to say it's a better company because there was a merger and you acquired more capabilities with the bigger and better company.
Well, let's make sure we communicate to ASM Global that we're ready for a full-time person.
Yes.
I remember going through the contract renegotiation. We had issues with who they were sending to run the American Bank Center, and it almost led to not renewing the contract. And at the time, they promised that, hey, you will not be treated as a second-rate facility. You'll be treated as a first-rate facility. So just make sure to send that message that, hey, put Corpus Christi at the top of the list.
Oh, I certainly will. And I have to tell you that it's been an absolute pleasure and honor to be here for the last 3 months to help lead this building. I think that the American Bank Center, what you have here, I've been in the venue management industry for about 30 years, going back to performing arts, arenas, and stadiums. And to see this facility that you have that has the arena, that has the convention center and the Selena Auditorium all under one roof is a very unique setting, and it's a really wonderful asset for the community. I know I've said this to our city manager as well, that just in my brief time here, I've become an incredibly huge fan for it, and I really do want to advocate for it. So I give you my assurance that that will be conveyed to ASM, and I know that they're committed as well. They want to see this be a great success for the community as well.
So did you put your name in the hat to be the full-time?
I sadly, I had something else that I was working on, and that opportunity came to pass, and so that's why my employment here is finishing up, and I'm going on to my next opportunity. But it has been a great opportunity. You've got great people that are working there, and the support that we get from the city is fantastic. Again, it's a very unique venue that any community would be lucky to have, and I certainly want to make sure that the connection that I have with it can help make that investment last. I see you've got a Cowboys star, and I used to work for the Dallas Cowboys with AT&T Stadium. So,
Yeah. Perhaps, any other questions by the board? Perhaps when that selection process is ongoing, Peter, maybe we can get a representative from our board to be part of that process on who actually gets selected.
Okay, it's so ASM Global is actually the one. We're not even involved in the interview process. We do see the candidates that they want to present to us as the finalists, and we can say yes or no. So maybe in that second step, but
Yes.
it's a private business matter that ASM Global is managing, and again, we're not part of the interviews ourselves. But that phase 2, we can do that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Turner, appreciate your update. Thank you very much.
thank you. Thank you.
Moving on. Our very own Mike Culberson.
Good afternoon, Mike Culbertson from your Economic Development Corporation. Thank you for your time. I know y'all are busy, banking, housing, consulting, CPA, trying to get somebody to buy lunch for him, engineering. We appreciate it. So let's go to the next one. We have, he didn't even say it. Del Mar College, they're doing well. They're almost finished. They had a big to-do on, where'd he go? I wanted to tell him. On October 25th, that was to thank Gulf Coast Growth Ventures for their $1.5 million in scholarships. And they're going to have a big open house with Type A and B invited. I don't know if y'all will be invited, but Type A will be. So, and that'll be on the 3rd, and you should have received an invitation for that. And I mean, if you're a pilot or if you're whatever, one peek is worth 1,000 scans. They take you into this room and everything's glass, and you can see how it works. I know I'm an aerospace, graduate, and I know how a condenser works in my mind, but to see it in glass was just, oh, okay, I get that now. But it's pretty cool. They'll be finishing up. Internet, ICE is doing well. They never slowed down during COVID, and they're moving along. A&M, they are on their industrial and general. Let me keep up with it. They are doing well. They have they've only paid $500,000, but they're building out their labs for all of these. La Vista Point is, sir?
Mike, what's the status on the drone system program?
On the what?
Drones? Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go over here to Type B. So La Vista Point, I think they call it the lighthouse now. They're doing fine. They have 11 buildings. They have COOs for 9 of them. There's the big building that's on the north side. That still needs to go. And then the lighthouse, and then that, you can see how they framed it out. That's done. Once they've done, they already have the employees. Once that's done, and they get the COOs, then they'll be eligible for reimbursement of the $625,000. They've already cleared the $625,000 in infrastructure. USO will be done at the end of this month, and you'll get an invitation for an open house to. Remember, you got to sign up. You and I can drive through, and we'll just talk and keep going. The soccer fields, just so you know, the soccer fields are doing well. He actually went and bought some of the more acreage over on the other side of that. On the there's the Old Brownsville Road, and then onto the other side, and he's going to put parking there. Remember how you had parking on
Yeah,
that? And
right.
and the city said, well, really don't like it. You have to make it a solid wall so they don't cut across, which is, pretty smart. But they bought that over. So they let the farmer reap his sorghum, it looked like, and they've leveled it and they're ready to go. They're still waiting for, I think, one permit from the city to, they're working with that to get started. But they've leveled it, and so they're ready to go. And the drones, they just started. They've hired Thales as part of the agreement. Remember, we have to go for that. And remember, they can't pay out anything until 60 days from the public hearing. It's just kind of a weird thing for Type B. In the public hearing, when the day that you approved it, they cannot send money out until 60 days from that date. So they've hired Thales, and they have started the airspace study. And that's the most important thing, because now companies can come down here and certify their vehicles, certify their people, certify their software, their payload package. So that's the most important thing, I think.
That does all the mapping, correct?
What's that?
That's all the mapping, correct?
Right.
Okay.
So, all right, so I'll just run through these just so you know what's going on, but I want to talk about them in the end. Lift Fund, they still have about 42,000, they just started. Remember how Heather was talking about, there's some of them on calendar and some of them on fiscal year. Fiscal year's SCORE and Lift Fund, and they're doing fine. Lift Fund went down to 49.3, but they've been really pushing the federal, so they didn't hardly do anything last year, which is what brought a lot into it so that you could raise the Type A. SCORE did well, and in fact, they went up to 70 for this year. The internships, you can see Del Mar didn't do so well. Now, all that money, now when we're talking about last year, we're talking about Type A. All that money will come back to Type A in the general funds for you to do whatever field, whatever you want to do, and so you can go from there. A&M, the intern project, the interns for A&M apparently, they had internships, they just didn't have the hours, while Del Mar was struggling for internships. So, and they had plenty of people, plenty of kids, but not. PTAC and CRC's doing well. And then the Small Development Center. So what I want to talk to you about is there's a couple of things. So we, the EDC, got AEDO certified. So we're a certified, an accredited economic development organization, AEDO. One of their recommendations was a remote worker program. So Wichita Falls, Tulsa, all these all these places do it. And what they do is they get workers to move to their cities, and then they incentivize the company. Because it's really hard to do although Wichita Falls went kind of crazy and they started helping with moves. We looked at it, and Type B, you actually have to have brick and mortar at some point. In fact, we had a project that we were pushing, and they came to us with a call center. They never went public, so I'm not going to say the name, but they came to us with a call center about 2 years ago with brick and mortar, and then they backed off. They backed off before COVID. But COVID certainly killed whatever. So now they're back, and they want to do remote. We looked at it, we worked through the language, the statute, and it just wouldn't work. But what they're going to do is they'll come in, and they'll do this mass training, and then they'll do here. We've been watching that quite a bit. The EDC, we're talking about, hey, why come to Corpus on the weekend? Why not just close your laptop and then you're on the beach? That moves a lot. And to certify that somebody is really there. I know our unemployment rate is still kind of high, although we traditionally trail Texas in the U.S. by 1% anyway. I think we would get really serious. We'd really bother Amy a lot more if we were in the 8 to 10. But we're close, and I think that compliance would be really difficult at some point. So we abandoned it to a point where Type B can't do incentives, but we certainly are looking at it on other fronts, and we continue our program to do that. Now let me talk to
Sorry,
you.
question, Ms. Summers?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it would be a remote work is what you're
Right,
referring to?
so, you know, company comes down here, trains 100 people for their call centers, and then sends them home here. And we're important because, you know, 62% is Hispanic, like 27% is bilingual, and so that's why. And it's Central Time, so Central Time's a really great place to have as we found, to have a call center. Either, you know, if you're on the West Coast, you know, you got people getting up at 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
So,
So, I guess I have a follow-up question to that, if that's okay.
No, that's fine.
I know we had talked about it at another meeting, that if Del Mar or Texas A&M didn't have a program that maybe another college in Texas, or, you know, to help attract workforce here, could we expand those internship programs? I think we were looking into the legality of that, to where we could maybe try to use that $5 an hour incentive to help bring people into our marketplace.
Talking
another-
Remote workers?
construction.
Yeah, like a construction, I mean, that's a huge one, and so to be able to attract people here and help businesses bring people in, and compete with some of these
Well,
other
you know,
cities.
we've talked about that you know, since Del Mar is here and the way the statute reads, unless Del Mar is doing it, we can't do, unless, go ahead.
It's a 2 or 4 year college is the way the statute reads. It does not say that the 2 or 4 year college necessarily has to be in the city limits. So if it was like Kingsville and they were sending them here, what has to be here is the job.
Right,
So that's
but so
the
we
trick.
could use some of these internship funds.
In theory, if you could find a university that would train people here but isn't located here, in theory, you probably could. I don't know how likely that is or how easy that is, but.
Well, or Del Mar could contract with some entity, some other training institution in North Texas that has this program.
Right, yeah, if Del Mar
Right,
wanted to work
right.
with another entity that's training it, we could fund that through Del Mar.
Because really, we have a lot of funds left over for these two programs, and if we could expand the amount of, I guess, different degrees that we could pull interns in for
Yes, ma'am.
locally, that would be great,
Okay.
to help the businesses here.
I know I'm losing my crowd, but one of the things I want to talk about is we found when we did a survey of small businesses, what we did is we got the survey and then we had it pushed out through SCORE, SBDC, because no one wanted to share their database, and that's fine, you know, I understand it. But the really big problem with, you know, they say, hey, we need internships, we need help for this, I look at our programs, and we have all of that. Now, there was one, you know, hey, we need help bonding. Yeah, good luck. But, you know, we don't want to get into that.
That's a problem, though.
Yeah, as a controller and a CFO, I've done enough of that. I don't need to do it again.
Question, Ms. Olivari?
Yeah, I do think that your idea about marketing, live on the beach,
Right.
work here, I mean, that's got legs, whether the company is here or not.
Right.
And I don't know that there's any reason that we couldn't help with a marketing effort that tries to attract people to come and live here and work remotely, even if the business is located in Austin or something, right?
Right, now.
Have y'all looked
The
at that?
EDC,
Yes.
we're using our money to do that and
Okay.
push through social media and other contacts that we have as we go through that. When I'm talking about advertising.
I knew it was something
It
different,
is
but-
something local. So, for example, PTAG, you know, did radio things. But we just found that we have all of the things that most businesses need. And so I'm really, you know, we need, as a group, need to get together and bring this and find a way to advertise. And I mean, put money into advertising. You can use 10% of, you know, of the fund for advertising, for marketing, right? Is it marketing?
Yeah, 10% for promotion of the programs, but the things you promote have to be eligible programs. So you can promote all of your stuff, all the things you do. We can promote Live Fund, we can promote SCORE, 10% of the funds.
Now, again, I'm an engineer by training and a CPA, so don't look for me to be out of the box. I really like the box. The box is a good place. So, but we do need I do need help, and this is one thing I think that we need to do, and we need to do it in this calendar year, and we need to continue to do it. Because we really do have the programs. The survey just showed that they don't know it. They're surprised that all of this stuff is available.
Yeah.
So, any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Item 8, last but not least, Mr. Jeff, Engineering Service Quarterly Project Update.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, board members. I'm going to be very brief because Jonathan Atwood covered about half my material during his presentation. So this is our quarterly project update, and I'm just going to give you a brief overview of all the projects that are in our pipeline that are Type A projects. And of course, I'm going to start off with a project that's not a Type A project. This was the Cole Park Pier, and I know most of you were able to attend our opening ceremony, and our apologies for the oversight on the plaque, but we definitely realized this project would not have been possible without the support of B Corporation. We'll see if we can do something about that. And that'll be the last time this will be on the report, because this project's in the rearview mirror for us now. Another one that's wrapping up is the repairs project to the seawall. That's in substantial completion, and we'll be dropping this off of the report going forward as well.
Before you leave Cole Park, I found out something that people may want to know out there, which is the lighting. My understanding is you're kind of working temporary lighting at this point because AEP is...
They can't get the poles.
Poles, yeah, they're having to replace the poles and those connect. So if you get complaints at all about the lighting situation, it is going to get better, I think, but that depends on AEP being able to redo shoreline.
Yes, ma'am. Well, there are
Right.
there's some AEP lighting that's going to go in the parking area,
Right.
And their problem, as you know, a lot of material is just
not available.
backlogged and difficult to get, and they're backlogged on getting the poles. So it's looking like it's going to be sometime next month when we get the permanent lighting installed. But we're going to keep temporary light towers out there until that comes in. So that will improve, and there will be permanent lighting out there. Okay, if there's no questions on that one. Another one that's wrapping up are the repairs to that McGee Beach breakwater. We're expecting that project to reach substantial completion this month. And for folks that like to walk out there and fish, they're going to have a much better accommodation. Although it's not officially encouraged, but
So this will be done this month?
yes, sir.
Awesome.
Salt Flats levee improvements, that project is getting ready to kick off, and the bids came in well within budget on that. So we'll expect to be seeing some construction on that starting in the near future. And that's the contractor, the low bidder was J.M. Davidson, who's also the company that did the Cole Park Pier.
Hey, Jeff, sorry, President. Back on Salt Flats, so we had a budget of close to 2.4 million, and the contract value is 900,000. Was there something de-scoped from that project, or is that just came in?
No, sir. This was one of those nice situations where the engineer is the high bidder rather than the low bidder. So.
I like those situations.
Well, you've got to submit. Unfortunately, they didn't submit on that one. But okay, and Jonathan reviewed this one. I don't think I have any more to say. That project is close to completion on the design, and they're working on getting the permits before we put it out to bid. These next two projects, you'll remember that type Type A funded these facility assessments where we brought in an architect and did a comprehensive, I guess, deficiency inventory. And then we bundled those into projects, and they're both going to be advertised for bid this month. That's the Art Center and the Art Museum. And this one. Yes, we re-solicited on that. We had gotten a single response the first time we put it out. We have 2 responses this time, and they're currently under evaluation. And we'll be selecting one of these companies to move forward and with a design build contract to implement a solution on the water garden.
Did the first submitter resubmit?
Yes. And then these last projects are on an RFQ that is currently advertised and closes later this month, and we'll be starting the evaluation process on picking designers for those projects. That's the Haulout facility, the boaters facility, and the boardwalk. That concludes my presentation.
Any questions from the board? Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you.
Edmonds. Peter, any executive director comments?
Just on that last item, which is that this report, I think, is one of the first where everything that has been funded by this corporation is actually under construction or in design. So this is a real good report. Jeff Edmonds and his team have set it up, and every one of the projects has some level of activity and some are nearing completion. So you can see it when you're around, especially in the downtown area where this money is focused on. And a lot of good work up there, a lot of great comments from the community, and better yet, a lot of good utilization of these assets. So we're appreciative of the money and of this board's interest and commitment to those assets as well.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you again, Mr. Edmonds. There being no further business,